Probably the most trivial opening would be to tell you that I thought I had a good marriage, but my wife's infidelity caught me off guard. The truth is that our marriage had been going downhill for some time. The shocker was that my loving wife believed that I would obediently fulfill her demands and allow her to humiliate me. To me, it all comes down to people mistaking kindness for weakness. Let me introduce my wife and myself and explain. My name is Kevin Stoffman. I am 42 years old, married to Tammy. Tammy recently turned 40. We have been married for 20 years. We have a 19-year-old daughter who is a freshman in college. Over the years, our marriage has gotten worse and worse. Tammy became detached and disinterested in our relationship. We were still having sex, but the amount was dwindling. I believe it was 40 years of age and empty nest status that caused my wife to begin to lose her mind. Unfortunately, it was our daughter Robin who found the first evidence of my wife's insanity. She was home for Christmas vacation, and on the last day before returning to college, she needed a computer. I was using mine, so I told her to get the spare one in our closet. I didn't realize it had been used since my wife had gotten a new computer for her birthday a few months ago. 30 minutes after I gave the computer to Robin, she burst into my office. "Daddy, what is this perverted shit you're into?" I looked at her puzzled. "I mean all that porn you watch, and what is this cuckold crap?" Robin put the computer in front of me, showing me an untitled folder with a bunch of videos. "I've watched a few, and they're all cuckold videos. I can't believe you're into that shit." "How do you know about cuckolds? You're only 19. "Come on, Dad. I'm not a kid. When did you get into this shit?" In shock, I looked at the folder. "It's your mom's computer. She's the only one who's ever used it." We continued rummaging through the computer, finding other folders. Another folder had several articles on how to turn your husband into a cuckold. It dawned on me that everything we were looking at was from a few months ago. It was still about an hour before Tammy got back, and I got the idea to look at Tammy's new computer. Robin pulled it out while I turned off the old one. "That won't work. She has the new one password protected." I took her hand and led her into the bedroom that was Tammy's office. There was a piece of paper hidden under the desk drawer. "Your mom isn't good at remembering passwords. When she got an old computer, I suggested she write down all the passwords and keep them in one place." I opened a drawer and pulled out a piece of paper with the passwords for our home sites. Robin looked at it. "There's no password here for her new computer." "I know," I said, and reached under the desk, pulling out another piece of paper. "This is her secret sheet. Like most things, she thinks she's clever hiding this sheet. I've seen her put it here, but I've never looked into it until now." I took a picture of the paper before putting it back in the stash. A few seconds later, her new computer was open and we started searching through it. We found more videos and articles about cuckolding. Our search was interrupted when we heard the garage door open. We quickly shut down the computer, putting it back up. The items we found were perverted, but didn't tell us if she had been doing anything other than watching porn. Robin agreed not to say anything on the condition that I keep her informed of my investigation. My investigation was just beginning when Robin returned to school. Robin was certain that her mother was up to something other than watching porn. She had noticed the same changes in my wife's attitude toward me that I had. Tammy's attitude toward Robin had also changed, but in a different direction. I had hoped that Tammy was just interested in porn, but deep down I knew it was more than that. Due to work and other things, it took almost a week before I had enough free time to search Tammy's computer. It was while going through her browser history that I came across her secret email account. Her secret password list wasn't completely obvious, but there were enough clues to quickly gain access to her email account. Fortunately for me, Tammy saved most of her emails. Most of the emails were related to a certain Miss B. Miss B was her cuckold counselor. There was a long string of conversations in which Miss B convinced Tammy to make me a cuckold. Tammy explained to Miss B that I would agree to do almost anything Tammy asked and never argued with her. In most cases, she said, I would rather give in than argue. Mrs. B thought I must be a weakling and would easily become a willing cuckold. At one point, Tammy asked her what to do if I resisted. Mrs. B advised her to threaten me with divorce, saying that in a divorce, I would lose everything and live in a shoebox, paying Tammy to entertain her lovers. I had to admit that I was ignorant of divorce law. Of course, I was aware that most men end up on the losing end of a divorce, even if they had done nothing wrong. I immediately made an appointment with one of the best divorce attorneys in town. I sat down with Jackie Stone and told her my situation. Her assistant gave me a form to fill out with our employment history and assets. She would check it out and give me answers in a couple days. The wide smile on Mrs. Stone's face as I entered her office told me a lot. Don't worry, Kevin. If you ever have to live in a shoebox, it will be a very nice one. People shouldn't listen to non-lawyers who don't have all the facts. Your wife will be in big trouble if she divorces you. I bet her so-called expert didn't even ask what you both do for a living. Your wife's business is valued at almost $1 million, but the liquid assets are not even half that amount. We'll demand half the value of the company immediately. She will have to find a way to pay you $500,000 or sell it. Her income will be calculated at the time the suit is filed and will be equal to yours, so she won't get any alimony. I can't advise you on that, but your house is almost paid off. A large loan secured by the house, put into a trust for Robin's college expenses, will keep that money from your wife. You both have almost identical amounts in your retirement funds, so that will be a boost. If you decide divorce is the way to go, we can do that. Are there any advantages to filing on the grounds of adultery? I asked. Not in terms of property division, but we could use the evidence you've gathered to force her into a favorable settlement. I think it would hurt her business if her activities became public. Mrs. Stone agreed to prepare the papers and wait for my signal to be served. We had no proof of adulthood other than emails, but it looked like she was getting to that point. We could use this time to shelter some extra money from Tammy's grasp. I informed Robin of what I had found and what the divorce attorney had said. You think she's going to try to make a sucker out of you? What a bitch! She can't possibly think you'd agree to that. It's partly my fault. I give her everything she wants. I have to stop it now. Wait, Dad? Maybe you should play along with her. Do you really think she'll stop if you put a stop to it? She'll just cover it up, play along and trap her. Oh, I like that. I continued to monitor Tammy's secret email account. Mistress B had instructed Tammy to deprive me of sex and began requiring me to do most of the household chores. Tammy should have gauged my reaction to her becoming more rude and demanding to me. Tammy should have told me that if I did everything she told me to do, I would be rewarded with sex. Mistress B told her to always find flaws in my performance to deprive me of sex. My submission would signal that I was willing to be her cuckold. I considered opposing her, but Mistress B said that if I didn't agree, she would change her plans and become a cuckold in secret from me. As Robin suggested, I agreed to her plan. I played my role as the dominant male well. I obediently did as I was told. I was so angry with her that I was happy not to have sex with Tammy, but was disappointed when she refused to have sex. I realized the end was near when I read the letter Tammy had sent informing Mistress B that she had found her bull. He was a vendor for one of the suppliers for her business. Mistress B told Tammy that she should try out her new bull before laying out the plan to me. I hadn't given up hope that Tammy would come to her senses before committing adultery. My blood boiled when, a week after Tammy announced that she had found her bull, I read the letter. It was addressed to Mrs. B. I have tried my bull in all positions. I am ready to make my husband a kukareku. Finding out the identity of the bull was easy. There were several new letters from one Stephen Rose. He was thanking Tammy for a great night of sex. In the last letter, dated yesterday afternoon, Tammy was telling me how he couldn't wait to put me in my place. He thought it over, and Steve said he couldn't wait to make a coochie out of me. After doing a little research, I learned everything I could about Stephen Rose. It was hard to believe he was going to be my bull. I thought a bull was an imposing figure of a man. If I picked Stephen Rose correctly, and I knew I did, he was 5 feet 10 inches tall at about 180 pounds. My height is just over 6 feet tall at 200 pounds. True, he was 10 years younger than me, but judging by the pictures, I could have overpowered him on my worst day. Steve was a traveling salesman, a supplier to Tammy's business. He was married and had 2 small children. I felt sorry for what was about to happen to his family. For the next 2 weeks, I monitored their emails. Steve was kind enough to take some POV pictures of my wife. I'm sure he had no idea that he had sent me the evidence I needed to prove my wife's adulthood and destroy his own marriage. Finally, the letter arrived. Tammy had written to Mrs. B that she was ready to make me a cuckoo. She thought I was ready, and her bull was willing. Friday night was going to be the night. Tammy was going to impose her new rules on me before Steve came to fuck her. If I didn't agree immediately, she would resort to threatening me with divorce. Tammy even told Miss B that she had a special gift for me to put me in my place. Mrs. B, based on my agreement with all of her previous humiliating actions, assured Tammy that I would comply. I had 3 days to prepare when I learned of the plan. My attorney had finalized the divorce papers and gave me a copy. I had already gotten Steve's wife's email address and phone number. Robin was shocked when I told her the details of her mother's plan, but she liked the way I was going to react. Robin had to be on standby to do her part in my plan. Tammy was sitting at the kitchen table when I walked in. She looked a little nervous. I turned on the digital recorder I had in my pocket when she spoke. "Kevin, sit down. I need to talk to you about something." I tried not to smirk. "Can I change first?" She spoke in her authoritative voice. "No, you're going to sit down and listen. You will not interrupt." I sat down in my chair, placing my briefcase next to me, and nodded to her. "We're going to have some changes here, and you're going to have to deal with them. First of all, I'm going to have a lover. He's coming over tonight to have sex with me. Your involvement will be limited to cleaning up after me and getting him ready for work after he has sex with me. You will continue to do chores and do whatever I tell you to do." Tammy paused, and I cut in. "Is that all?" "No, I have a little gift you're going to start wearing. You'll wear it all the time, and I'll have the only key. Go ahead and open it." She held out a wrapped box to me. Inside the box turned out to be a chastity cage. I'd seen a few of these in the videos Tammy had posted on her computer. I took the cage in my hands. "Are you done?" "Yes, I know it's going to be a big change, but you'll get used to it and do as you're told." Tammy looked nervous now. I think she expected a different reaction from me. "I want to warn you that there will be consequences if you don't agree." I held back, but chuckled slightly. "Are you done now?" Tammy nodded. "Aren't you supposed to tell me that if I don't comply, you'll divorce me and I'll be living in a shoebox?" "Well, yes, those are some of the consequences, so you'd better just go along with it." Her voice shook a little and became less authoritative. I pulled out my cell phone, sending a pre-planned email to Steve's wife, and then dialed Robin's number. "Yes, honey, she told me everything. You won't believe this, but she just gave me a chastity cage." Tammy tried to pull herself together. "Hang up the phone. Who the hell were you talking to?" I looked at her with a snarl. "I better let you go, honey. I have to deal with this." Putting the phone down on the table, I looked at my wife and clapped my hand loudly. "Don't ever interrupt me when I'm talking to my daughter," I said in a calm but firm voice. Tammy stood there at a loss for words. "Okay, I've got your attention. Let's recap what you just told me. If I understand correctly, your plan is for some guy to come to our house tonight and fuck you. I'm supposed to watch you sleep with him and then wipe you down. I guess this will continue, and I'll become your faithful cuckold. Oh yes, I must wear this cage that only you have the key to. Final blow. If I don't agree, you'll divorce me, taking everything I've gained and forcing me to live in a shoebox, right?" Confidence returned to Tammy that things were still going her way. "Yeah, that's exactly how it's going to go." I picked up my briefcase, placed it on the table, and opened it. "Tammy, get your phone out and call Steve." Her confidence quickly faded. "What? Who's Steve?" I snatched the phone out of her hands, dialing the code to open it. Just as quickly, I dialed Steve's number from her contacts, putting it on speaker. "You know Steve, your bull?" Steve answered on the first ring. "Hey, babe. How's that wimp?" "Sorry, Steve, but it's not a baby, it's a wimp. I need to ask you some questions, Steve. When you started sleeping with my wife, did you tell her you were married and had 2 small children?" Tammy sighed. "Judging by my wife's reaction, I guess not. More importantly, did you tell your wife that you were going to spend the evening having sex with my wife? Judging by your silence, I'm guessing no. Don't worry, I've taken care of that for you. I'm sure she'll take it very well, and I really appreciate the pictures of you having sex with my wife. I'm sure your wife can use them in the divorce. I know I will use them in the divorce." "You son of a bitch, I'm going to kill you." "Oh my God, that sounds like a threat to do me serious bodily harm." I reached into my briefcase, pulling out my gun. Tammy shrieked when she saw it. "Tammy, shut up! I'm talking to your bull. Steve, do you know guns?" I twitched the slide of the gun. "If you're not familiar, that's the sound a .45 caliber handgun makes when there's a round in the chamber. I recently wondered what a .45 caliber bullet could do to a man's balls. If you show up at my door, we'll both find out." After a few moments of silence, I looked at Tammy, who was beginning to panic. Shit! I think he hung up on me. I didn't even have time to tell him that I also sent some of his emails to his employer. Did you know they have a strict rule against having sex with their clients? Sit down, Tammy, you were right. We have a lot to talk about. Taking the cage in my hands, I examined it closely. It was small. I tossed it to her. Really small, damn small. There's no way mine would fit in here, you know that. This is just one of the many blunders you have made, my dear wife. Did you really think I would go along with all this crap? Tammy began to stammer. Pulling a folder out of my briefcase, I held it out across the table. What's this? She asked, ready about to cry. It's a divorce petition. My attorney, a woman who actually went to law school, told me to tell you that you should never take legal advice from an internet bitch. Let me tell you the main point. First, you're not going to take everything away from me, and I'm not going to live in a shoebox. Let's start with our assets. I'm sure your internet bitch told you that you're going to get everything. We don't. We live in a 50-50 state. That means we are each entitled to half of our marriage assets. Did you tell your counselor that you owned a successful business? No, I didn't think so. You noticed that I claim half of the business you built during our marriage. I remember that the last loan appraisal you received valued the company at $1 million. In the divorce, I am demanding $500,000 in cash. Tammy began to stammer. But you know that appraisal was only done to secure the loan. You know my company has no such assets. Oh dear, you may have to sell your business. Secondly, I'm not asking for maintenance. Luckily for you, your salary that you get from the company and the benefits you receive are equal to my current salary. What, you make more money than me and you know it. There you go again, listening to some internet bitch. You see, your salary is based on what you get from your company along with perks like a car, travel, and stuff like that. Too bad you'll have to sell it to pay off your debt to me. You son of a bitch, you planned this. No, let me stop you. You planned this and I'm just reacting to your plans. How is your plan working so far? Tammy cried hard. I don't want a divorce. Can't we settle this somehow? Settle it? You're out of your mind. You gave me a cage. You slept with a snot-nosed weasel. I don't know what happened that made you lose your mind, but I'm done. Just so you know, I knew about your little plan. It just proves that you think kindness is a weakness, so I'll fix that. I'm not going to be kind to you anymore. I'm going to treat you like the piece of shit you've turned into. Tammy cried. Kevin, I'm so sorry. I was looking for something new and I gave in to the excitement. Please, can we just forget about all of this? I realize how wrong I was to force you into this. You wanted excitement, and I'm going to give it to you. This is going to be so exciting. Going to divorce court, it's going to be so exciting for you to tell your family what a slut you've turned into. And finally, you're going to have to sell your business to pay me back. Look how horny you'll be. Tammy continued to assure me that she was sorry and didn't want things to turn out this way. She had been crying for over an hour when someone started banging on the front door. Judging by the loud knocking, I was sure I knew who was behind the door. I grabbed my .45 and went to the door. As I got to the door, a voice yelled to me through the door, "Open the door, you son of a bitch!" I backed away from the door and pulled out my cell phone, dialing 911. Yes, I need the police to come to my house immediately. My wife's boyfriend is standing at the door threatening me. I don't know if he's armed, but I am. If he comes through the door, I will shoot him to protect myself. I hung up the phone, leaving it connected to 911. Steve, get away from my door. I called the police and they're on their way. Steve was already pounding harder on the door. It was clear from the loud thumps that he was trying to break down the door. I'm going to kill you, you bastard! I was tempted to unlock the deadbolt to let him break in and shoot him. But before I could do that, I heard sirens howling outside. Through the door, I could hear police officers yelling at Steve to show his hands and move away from the door. When he didn't comply, I heard one of the officers announce, "Taser applied." We later learned that Steve's wife lost her temper when she received my letter addressed to her father. Her father lived in the neighborhood, so he was already waiting for Steve to drive up. Steve barely managed to save his life before he drove back to my door. After the arrest, I noticed large dents on the side of his car. They looked like dents from a baseball bat. I wish his father-in-law had caught him before he tried to break into our house with a gun. It might have saved him from jail time. The incident with Steve helped me get a restraining order against Steve, although I wouldn't have needed one until he was out of jail. I threatened Tammy with a restraining order if she didn't move out. I knew no judge would agree to that, but she didn't. Tammy moved in with her parents, kicking and screaming the whole time. She kept wanting to talk, saying she didn't want a divorce. Tammy hired an attorney who insisted on meeting in person to work out the details of the divorce. Mrs. Stone told me to be prepared to attack everything in the divorce petition because the lawyer she hired was, in Mrs. Stone's words, a real scumbag. He was loud-mouthed, but, she said, was not very intelligent. I shouldn't have let him intimidate me. As expected, Tammy and her attorney tried to talk me out of the divorce. She tried to act sweet and innocent. "Honey, this whole thing was a big mistake. I thought it would strengthen our marriage. You have to believe me that Steve and I never had sex. I didn't cheat on you." I just stared back at her without saying a word. Her scraggly lawyer spoke up. "Mr. Stoffman, we're willing to forget all this nonsense and forgive your baseless accusations of Mrs. Stoffman's infidelity. But if you insist on continuing, we will countersue you for slandering Mrs. Stoffman's good name." I laughed, looking at my lawyer. "You said they would try that." Mrs. Stone opened one of the folders and held out some pictures to Tammy and her lawyer. "I think this will prove otherwise. This is a picture of you. I don't think this is cheating. This picture shows you having fun. You can tell it's not you, but I'd recognize that ass anywhere, including the little mole on your cheek. Steve takes good pictures, doesn't he? And did my soon-to-be ex-wife remember to tell you that I have these pictures thanks to her bull?" I paused, then looked directly at Tammy. "I'm not stopping the divorce. You can resist all you want, but I'm done with you." I pushed another picture toward her lawyer. "Here's a picture of the cage she wanted to put my manhood in. No, I will not forget or forgive." Tammy and her lawyer began to whisper. It was obvious that Tammy hadn't told him that Steve had taken pictures of them having fun. Things were getting heated, but all I could make out was that Tammy was telling him, "He said he had pictures, but I didn't believe him. I had my eyes closed. I wasn't watching him while he slept with me." Mrs. Stone suggested a break so the attorneys could talk to their clients. Mrs. Stone and I laughed as we left the room. When we returned, Tammy had a very different look on her face. The sweet and innocent look was gone. Her attorney began, "We're going to request counseling." Mrs. Stone told me to expect it. I told her I would endure as many sessions as they would schedule for me. "In case we can't convince you to stop this after counseling, we need to talk about property division. Your property division plan is completely unacceptable." Tammy's attorney pulled out a folder with our property division plan. "Your demand for $500,000 for Mrs. Stoffman's company is absurd. We should have an independent valuation of the business before we discuss any figures." "You know my company is worth maybe half that," Tammy said, looking at me. My attorney looked at me with a smirk. She opened the folder and held out the stapled stack to Tammy. "Mrs. Stoffman, I think you'll recognize this document as an application for a loan for your business. If you look at the last page, you'll find your signature and a clause stating that you are signing the document under penalty of perjury. You mailed it to the bank after it was notarized. You certified that the value of your business is just over $1 million. Based on this statement that you signed, the bank gave you a loan. If you are now saying that the value of your company as stated on the statement is not true, that is very disturbing. Not only are you admitting to perjury, but because you used the postal service, you have committed mail fraud. I know your lawyer doesn't specialize in criminal law, but I'm sure he knows that the feds take mail fraud very seriously." "Well, Tammy, you might be the one who ends up in the cage," I said, laughing. Tammy turned pale and turned to her lawyer. They argued for a few minutes, after which her lawyer announced that the meeting was over. A week later, I was shocked to find Tammy on my doorstep. Tammy looked like shit, her hair was a mess, and her eyes looked like she hadn't slept in days. Please, Kevin, we need to talk. I opened the door for her. Didn't we do this the night you planned to make me a cuckold? I led her over to the kitchen table where it was all happening. What do you want to talk about, Tammy? I can't do this, Kevin. I was wrong and stupid. I'm losing everything, including my mind. Robin won't talk to me. Every time I call her, she says I'm a whore and hangs up on me. I'm going to lose my business, and you're trying to put me in jail. My parents are mad at me. I heard my dad tell my mom I'm a whore and wanted me out of the house. Steve's wife came to my parents' house and told my mom she was going to kick my ass. Sounds to me like you got what you deserved. Isn't that exciting? Tears streamed down her face. You're not going to put me in jail, are you? I'm not the one who's going to put you in jail. As with everything else, it's your actions that will get you there. I'm sorry, I got caught up in the excitement of what I saw on the internet. That woman told me you'd love it. She said the fact that you took over the household chores and didn't complain shows that you like to dominate. Or maybe I'm a nice guy who wanted to make his wife happy. Tammy, we're wasting our time. I'm not going to back down. I'd hate for you to take my submission as a sign that I want to be a cuckold. I suggest you drop our counseling and find a buyer for your business. She fired her lawyer and hired another, less cushy one. The new lawyer told her she had lost the case and advised her to cut her losses. 2 months later, we were back in the same conference room at my attorney's firm. Tammy looked as bad as when she showed up at my house. She looked absolutely shattered when she walked into the conference room. Mrs. Stone told me that Tammy had contracted to sell her business. After paying off her loans, she would only get about $400,000. The original offer was for half. We rejected it and started demanding all of it. The meeting was to finalize the financial details of the divorce. Tammy's lawyer cleared his throat, pushing the folder toward my attorney. My client agrees with your latest settlement offer. Mr. Stoffman will receive sole ownership of the marital home, with each party retaining their retirement accounts. The bank accounts have been split 50/50ths and will remain the same. The last item is Mrs. Stoffman's business. There is a $400,000 contract on the business. Once Mrs. Stoffman receives the funds, Mr. Stoffman will receive a check for $320,000. I believe we do not need to include in the settlement agreement Mr. Stoffman's agreement not to bring up the unpleasantness of this loan agreement. Mrs. Stone stood up. No, I don't think you need that in writing. All we need to do now is file the signed divorce papers along with this settlement agreement. I think we're done. I felt a little sorry for Tammy as tears were streaming down her face. She looked up at me. Can we talk for a few minutes? I looked at Mrs. Stone and waved her hand slightly, letting her know I agreed to talk. She left the room, leaving us alone. I'm so sorry, Kevin. I know I have no chance of regaining your trust, but could you please help me with Robin? Our daughter won't talk to me nicely and won't agree to meet with me. And when we do talk, she calls me horrible names. What did you expect? Did you really think she would support you in putting me in a cage and attracting me to sex with other men? There's nothing I can do to change her mind. You'll have to decide that for yourself. Tammy lowered her head and shuffled out of the conference room. I wanted so badly to ask her how she was dealing with all this unrest she'd brought upon herself, but that would be too much. I'd done enough already.